Good day, everyone. This is what was intended to be the penultimate podcast in the Speaking for Success series. However, it looks like it may be extended by one or more podcasts because of suggestions that I've received for others to be interviewed. If you have someone that you think would be a good interviewee for this or a topic that you'd like me to talk about, let me know. You can contact me at heather@perkins.com.es. Just a reminder that YouTube could be doing your own podcast, and you could be doing it as a project for an elective in level 4 of any of the paths. If you do one on a Toastmaster related topic, then you can be hosted here on the district YouTube channel. For example, you could talk about the club officer roles. Each podcast could focus on a different role, and you could interview somebody that you think has shown particular aptitude in that role. You could talk about speech contests, either about writing contests or about judging contests. You could talk about various ways of conducting an evaluation. Those are all topics that would make a great series. So consider it. Do that project. Challenge yourself. I know for me, it was one that I thought I would never do. And then I said, if you're not going to do it, Heather, why should you expect anyone else to do it? So I decided to challenge myself. In saying that I shouldn't expect someone else to do something that I wouldn't do leads into partly what my topic for today is. My topic for today is how you can take a subject and do anything from a 4-minute speech to a 40-minute speech. The topic that I'm going to use to illustrate this point is one that I have done just that. It's talking about being a leader, and part of that is not expecting people to do things that you wouldn't do. The way that you change the length of it is really by audience interaction and through the stories that you tell. Ultimately, I talk about the acronym ROLE and what it could mean. Each of the letters could stand for different topics. For me, I was using respect, opportunity, lead by example, and engaging members. The E could be enthusiasm, evaluate, whatever you choose. When I had to do it in 4 minutes, I talked just about those. There was no audience interaction. When it was a 5 to 7 minute speech, I had a tiny bit of audience interaction. When it was a 20-minute keynote, I had more. And when it was a 40-minute keynote, I had even more. And then the additional piece is the stories that you add. Once again, the stories with the 5 to 7 are going to be limited. With the 20-minute keynote, it depended on interaction. And with the 40-minute, I have much more latitude. When you have interaction with the audience, you also want to be prepared to react to what they say. And that will sometimes take you for a little bit in a somewhat different direction than maybe what you had intended. But if it fits with the overall topic, you may want to explore it, because don't ask for audience interaction and then tell them that they're wrong or completely ignore them. You have to affirm what they're saying, even if it's not exactly what you're looking for. When I have the opportunity for audience interaction, I start off with characteristics of a leader. Now, the one that I'm really looking for is that they're a role model. And then that leads me into talking about the role part. Sometimes it takes a while to get there. I may need to do a little bit of hinting on what it is to get them there, but that's okay. When the audience feels engaged, then it's a topic that's meaningful to them, and they're going to want to hear. Now, for each of those, I have examples of for each topic, an example where somebody shows respect or doesn't show respect, and what it means, and how respect and commitment can be tied together, things like that. Opportunity, providing the opportunity for people to learn, to be involved. The lead by example. I've got some great examples of where somebody has done something that might not be an ideal thing to do, but they're not going to ask somebody else to do it if they're not prepared to do it. And with the E, engaging. How do you engage people? Or if I choose to use the enthusiasm, are you showing the enthusiasm, or are you standing up there and saying, I'm so excited to be doing this? First of all, you're not being a particularly good role model if that's what you're doing, but you also don't show any credibility. So you can choose those stories. If you have one 3-minute story for each of those, there's 12 minutes, plus your lead in, your wrap up, there's your 20 minutes. Or they could be 3 1-minute stories. When you have the 40-minute one, to say you're going to have more opportunity for in each area. Ask the audience if they have an example of respect, and you go through, what do you think the R stands for? Now, again, in a shorter one, you're not going to have that time to do that. In a longer one, you can. So you're going to get other ideas, all of which may fit. And you acknowledge that, but you continue to look for the one that you want. We often have these great ideas. We do a speech and it's a one and done. In a previous podcast, in podcast number 3, I talked about the framework where you can use the same basic idea and modify it to suit your audience. You're really doing this in much the same way, is that you have your basic framework, in this case, talking about role and what that means as far as being a leader is concerned. The difference here is that you're changing it by both audience interaction and the stories that you tell. Make sure that your stories are ones that will resonate with your audience. So you may have different stories in different circumstances when you deliver it. But let's not just lose these great ideas that we have. Don't make them a one and done. Take that opportunity to share your message with more people and find the ways to do it. It gets you that many more projects that you're able to get off, because you can use these, depending on the length of your presentation, you can use them for different projects within various paths. Take the challenge, take your great idea and make it a 5 to 7 minute speech. I wouldn't often want it to be a 4-minute speech. This was a situation where I had a very limited period of time and I had to be sure I got my message across in that time. I had actually gone into it thinking I was going to have more, and I get there just before I'm going to speak and they said, okay, you have 4 minutes on the agenda. You also sometimes need to be adaptable when you're doing this, but take your 5 to 7 minute speech. Make it an 18 to 20 minute speech. Make it an even longer. Offer to give a presentation at the conference or at a fall extravaganza. Soon we'll be looking for presenters for our annual conference in May. You can take something that you've done a shorter speech on and expand that. Start thinking about the stories that will relate to what you're saying. You don't have to do this overnight. Just start thinking about it and adding those stories. Make a note of them so that you remember the stories that fit. I challenge you to take your great idea, give it in a variety of settings at a variety of lengths. You'll be surprised what you will gain from doing this as well. Remember, take the challenge also for doing your own podcast. I'll see you next week with another interview. Until then, remember, if you've got any suggestions, let me know. Bye.